Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Opa-locka special workshop on COVID-19. We're doing a weekly workshop to make sure that we are coming together as a government to make sure we're here and there for the people. So with that, Madam Clerk, would you do a quick roll call?
Commissioner Bass?
Here.
Commissioner Burke?
Here.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Here.
Just for the record, Mayor, Commissioner Kelly will not be joining the meeting. Mayor Pike?
Okay, thank you. All right, Madam Commissioner Bass, could you lead us in prayer in this National Day of Prayer?
It'll be my honor, Mayor President. Father, we just thank you. We magnify your name. We give you honor. We give you glory. We thank you, Lord God, that we are in this place together, but yet still separate. For that, we thank you, Lord God, for the ability, Father God, to reach out to our community, Father God, to lead, Father God, to guide and protect. Father, we just bless you today as we give you honor and glory. Watch over our city, our employees. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Mr. Mayor, we lost your audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right. I apologize. I'm having some serious technical difficulties here in my house. So I don't have the agenda with me right now. But Mr. Manager, while I try and get this situated, could you start us off with a report based upon the priorities that we have laid out or where we are?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. You don't want to do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, Mike, you're right about that. Go ahead, Commissioner Burke, Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Burke.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Manager. Where's the manager at? Is Mr. Pate here?
That's here.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, excellent.
Can we see you?
If we see me, might have some difficulty, Mayor.
All right, start your report, sir.
Okay, as far as COVID-19 goes on, this will be the second week that we're addressing COVID-19 as a group. Enforcement has been down. We've been working on keeping the businesses closed through extra remediation work, as well as through extra warnings that have been provided by the police department. Majority of these businesses that have not been complying have been kept shut down, mostly gas stations. As far as we're looking at the COVID-19 numbers, those numbers have slowly but surely went up. And as of today, have went up even further. I would have to look at my email to look at that final number of where that number is or how we went up on COVID-19, which I don't have a problem doing. And regardless of looking at that number, it shows us that we're in a position where these numbers are not going down anytime soon, and that we have to make sure that we have appropriate processes in place to put in place to ensure we protect ourselves from COVID-19. It's very important that the proper social distancing standards are complied with, along with the enforcement of our rules and regulations, along with what has been applied to with COVID-19, our rules and regulations, such as social distancing, our businesses not allowing individuals to come in their business without COVID-19 related input. And that's very, very much important. Today's COVID-19 report has not been uploaded because it's not been through the review process, and it will be released shortly sometime this evening. And that's the information I just received. Another important thing we must look into account is the number of masks that we're getting into the vehicle stockpile, let it be surgical mask, N95 mask, gloves, or any other resources that we're getting from the city. I will say those cities are coming into the city slowly but surely through the Florida, Miami-Dade County Department of Emergency Management. They did deliver a great deal of those products as of a couple of days ago. They're currently being inventoried to be put out to the law enforcement. And those masks are going to be divvied up to our administrative staff as well as our law enforcement staff. One thing that I've seen that's been very concerning of me is our law enforcement not properly addressing the calls they're being dispatched on due to COVID-19. I've requested the investigations lieutenant to put out correspondence to mandate officers to leave their vehicles at all call types to ensure they have physical contact with our residents in order to assist in ensuring that COVID-19 related matters are being enforced in an efficient and proper manner. Enforcement, as always, since day one has been our issue. Enforcement, even as of today, has been an issue. And this is why I extend our overtime details to deal with enforcement and the ability to take care of various COVID-19 related issues, as well as the goals that have been set forth by the mayor and other members of the commission. I would like to branch off from my report and ask for a report from the police department, and from the police department to Mr. Austin, and from there to other department heads so they can explain how their departments have been operating during the COVID-19 time period.
Mr. Mayor,
Madam Clerk?
just for the record, I just want to state that we didn't receive any public comments. So I know that was on the agenda and we went straight into the manager's report.
All right, thank you very much for catching that. And I'll say I apologize due to the technical difficulties I'm experiencing right now at my home. I do not have the agenda above me. So to the public that is watching and aware, make sure that we do email the city clerk's office. Madam Clerk, could you state how the public can ensure that they can be engaged in these meetings moving forward?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So the public may comment by submitting their comment ahead of the meeting, 2 hours in advance of the meeting, by emailing public comments at opalockafl.gov. Once we receive those comments, we'll read those into the record. If we receive those after the designated time, then we will file those in the record.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're trying to figure out as many means as possible to ensure that our public can be engaged in this. So bear with us as we move a lot of our meetings, workshops to the online platform. So I want to make sure that you do stay engaged. Please email to ensure that your voices are heard as we move forward and address this COVID-19 crisis. With that, Mr. Manager, I believe you called upon Chief Dobson. So Chief, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commission. For our report, we are continuously monitoring COVID-19. We've assisted with numerous amounts of the food giveaways. What we've done with the food giveaways is we've backfilled with our SRO, school resource officers that are not in the schools. We placed detectives and everyone in investigation in uniform to also assist with that. we have our crossing guards at each of the parks that we have here in the city. At Ingram Park, we have 3 crossing guards. Shabandi, we have 3 crossing guards. Seal, we have 4, and we have a supervisor. And the reason for the crossing guards is, one, we don't have school right now, and they assist us with the parks being closed, and they've done a great job with that. Every night now from 10 p.m. to 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., we have an additional 4 officers that's assisted us with curfew, the social distancing, and also enforcement of masks throughout the community. They've also assisted us with additional foot patrols and things like that in apartment complexes. Our staff has been advised. I know that the manager also mentioned something about the businesses. Through the businesses checks, we provided several warnings to businesses, gas stations and things like that, and stores that have been operating within the hours, but that have issues or concerns that people haven't been wearing masks. So initially what we did is we warned, and we gave warnings, and at some point, warnings were no longer given because we had already educated those businesses. At that time, those businesses were closed for the safety of the business themselves and also the people that were conducting businesses at the stores. And those businesses were allowed to be reopened the next day. We've had one or two businesses that even the second day that we had to go back, that were actually still operating the same way, and they were closed a second time. And we've passed that information on to code enforcement also. But as far as that, everything else with cost for service and things, I've heard the concerns of the commission last week, and we've implemented everything that was spoken last week, and we're moving forward with our continuous enforcement throughout the community. I'm open for any questions, but that's all we have right now for the police department. We also did receive an additional from Miami-Dade Emergency Operations Center, 2,100 masks on yesterday, about 1,700 gloves yesterday, and also we have some sanitizers, a small amount of sanitizers, in which we did a request through the Miami-Dade Emergency Operations Center. And that's all we have right now from the police department.
Any questions for Chief Dobson? All right, Chief, I actually do have a few questions. Do you believe at the time that you have enough personnel to enforce these emergency orders that are coming down from the state, county, and also for the city of Opa-locka?
Yes, sir.
All right. And moving forward, we're going to talk about this in a moment, about this proposed mask law throughout the city of Opa-locka. But I'm very concerned about ensuring that it can be enforced. But then also the other hand, we've been getting a lot of pushback and we've been getting a lot of calls. I think almost all of us on the commission about businesses that have been shut down. And one of the things I relayed to the manager is, like, what number do business owners call if someone is not abiding by their rules and regulations about this mask law or wearing masks into the business? Because I don't want a situation that has happened across the country where residents or citizens becoming rowdy with the employees. Have we given businesses a number they can call to relay concerns to our police department?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
The number that we give when we've gone out to educate them is the number to the police department's police dispatch, which is 305-953-2877. Again, it's 305-953-2877. And at that point, if they have any questions or concerns when they call, they've been instructed when our officers have gone out to businesses to ask for a supervisor. The reason why we don't have one dedicated person because our shifts constantly change and there's a different supervisor on the shifts. And once their supervisor will respond to be able to speak with that business owner or interject or do whatever enforcement that needs to be done at that time. On any given shift, we have a sergeant and a corporal assigned to that shift. And most of the day shift and night shift, we also have a lieutenant on duty at the time. So either a sergeant, corporal, or lieutenant will respond to speak to that business owner.
All right. So this number, and I haven't seen that number out anywhere. So if we can use our communication channels, the Jumbotron, email, Facebook, everybody, to let them know that if they are having concerns with businesses that, or even doing a flyer drop off to our businesses or something of that nature, if they're having concerns, that's the number to call. So have you seen an uptick in calls about people violating the mask ordinance on entering businesses? And if so, is it getting close to some capacity issue with our law enforcement?
We have not seen an uptick in calls. The only thing we have is when our officers themselves have responded to the stores, but we haven't received any calls that I know of through our dispatch to say that there was some issues with no one wanting to enter a store without a mask. No, sir, not at this time. I have not.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that our business owners got that number, so that they know to call, and that it's a direct line. And one thing I am concerned about is them maybe calling 911, and then some delay is between Miami-Dade and here, or just blowing up the 911 number and not being able to express their concerns directly to our police force to enforce these local emergency orders. So as long as that's being taken care of, I'm fine, but I want to make sure that we are very responsive to the needs of our business owners when they have people that may not be abiding by the mask and social distancing.
Yes, sir. I will get with the code enforcement director, and we'll have code. We'll get with code and have them assist us with getting a flyer and getting their information out to the business owners.
All right. Anything else for the chief?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes, quick question to the chief. Have we done any outreach as far as giving masks to our residents? I know we kind of talked about it, and I know the recommendation came down from the League of Cities to pretty much focus in hot spot areas and such as our supermarkets and I guess essential businesses that have high foot traffic. Have we made any movement on that, or got enough masks, I guess, to even distribute to our residents at large?
Mr. Vice Mayor, at this time, sir, the only thing we have done is at the direction of the city manager is I've reached out to 3 different vendors. I actually sent correspondence to Miami-Dade County today also to find out their vendor to try to get a large order of masks to see, to get quotes a large order of masks. But as for us at prepared to provide a mask, at this point, no, we have not.
Okay, well, my hope is whenever we do get I know the law is ultimately up for discussion later, but I hope at some point when we do get that shipment in, that out was secure. Like I said, we might not have enough for all our residents, but we sure can focus, the essential areas or the hot spots, where we're experiencing high traffic. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else for the chief?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just have a question on as far as terminology that we want to be using so we can all be on the same page. Should we be using the terminology mask or should we be using face covering?
Good point. Face covering.
You
Yeah.
should be using the terminology mask at this point. Face covering are coverings that can be used on multiple occasions, and Opa-locka does not have possession of either.
Say that again?
For a mask is a one-time use item. A face covering is an item that can be used multiple occasions. It can be washed out and reused.
I don't know if I follow that definition. So yeah, I got a mask that I use pretty frequently and wash and alcohol spray too.
Would you define it as a face covering?
So, and that's one thing we can bring up. Miss Flores, do you have that mass ordinance where you can do a screen share? You don't got to do it right now, but when we get to that point.
Okay, I'll see if I can pull it up, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, because yeah, I'm not able to do it from this computer. So from what I've been seeing when it comes to the regulations, people have been saying mask, but it's been defined as a face covering in the details, and they specify exactly what that means. We can get into the lingo of it, and I guess we can fine tune that. So let's take that into consideration. Right now, I think the whole point is what we want to make sure residents and business owners understand is that they must cover their nose and mouth with some type of at least cloth material, if not a filtered or actual medical mask. I think that's what we're running into right now. So anything else for the chief right now? All right, I believe the manager called on Mr. Austin next.
Yes, sir. As of May 4th, Area Austin Public Works. As of May 4th, the Public Works Department resumed normal schedules, an 8-hour day. And beginning tomorrow, we will be addressing potholes. Although I would like to add that potholes have become a scarce item around the city, except for areas that are outside the anticipated milling and resurfacing zone. And after we do that, we are gonna basically cover about 98% of our potholes throughout the city. But we still are addressing the potholes as we speak, and we will be doing so going forward. We're working on our pump stations. We're actively lining pump station number 5 at this time, and we hope to have that project wrapped up by mid-month this month, at which time we're going to be focusing on doing 2 additional pump stations before the rainy season ends in November of this year, to where we could have 3 additional stations certified, which would leave 1 station lacking to be certified, which is going to be done in next fiscal year. We're taking emergency calls and responding actively, and business as usual so far for Public Works. That's all I have at this time. Any questions or concerns, I'm open.
Anything for Public Works Director, Mr. Austin?
Mayor Paget,
Commissioner Bass?
Mr. Austin, that is awesome news. I'm elated to hear that the staff is back on 8-hour shifts, and hopefully they're practicing social distance as much as possible. And it's encouraging to hear about the pump station. So awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the potholes, 90% done. Thumbs up. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anything for Public Works Director, Mr. Austin?
Let's talk budget.
Vice Mayor Davis? We can't hear you, Vice Mayor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, just one quick question, Mr. Austin. Do we have an update on the, I know the bus benches was in transition. Do we have an update with that?
I am holding on the vendor. The attorney has some questions for the vendor. He's responding with an active Word document that we could review and provide you with the necessary information to make a wise decision on the bus benches. We're hopeful that it's going to be brought forward in the May 27 meeting for consideration.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait for that update.
Okay, sir.
Commissioner Berg, you have anything?
No.
Okay. All right, I also want to piggyback on Commissioner Bass, having Over 90% of the potholes outside of our remilling areas completed or being addressed is a very significant achievement. And I hope that we do continue. I know we just passed the resolution, a budget amendment that appropriate funds for, I think, 141st and others. Where are we with those projects?
139 and 141 is complete except for beauty enhancements. We're going to be doing some landscaping on both streets to prohibit parking along the roadway, which leads to fractured edge of pavement. So we could enhance the longevity of the pavement. We would like to plant some trees to prohibit parking along the sides of the road.
You say 141st has been paved?
Yes, sir. 141 and 139 are both complete.
Where are pictures at and everything on social media? Why wasn't that put out like 139th?
I'll verify, but we provided pictures before, during, and after.
I would like to see that out as soon as possible. Yeah, that's a significant thing to do 141st and 139th in that district. A lot of people need to understand that because that's a significant achievement. Those roads have been like messed up for decades, and we want to make sure people understand the value of what the city is doing and what we're doing to make sure that we're appropriately using taxpayer dollars to benefit our residents and our business owners. So I want to make sure that it's out there just like 139th was.
We will do so, sir.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Burt?
Yes, excuse me. I've been in the area of 139th and 141. The streets looks amazing for the years that the conditions that those streets have been in. And believe me, the businesses in the areas are elated. They are elated. And 141, I couldn't believe I was able to ride all the way down that street. That was a beautiful job. But the one thing I have about that, while I was over there, the cement trucks are still coming through. So I think that's gonna be one of our problems. Mr. Austin, we don't excuse me, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Austin through the mayor. We haven't been able to get with the cement company and see if their trucks should go out 19th and come through 19th.
We are going to have an additional meeting with them, but we did speak to them prior to repairing the roadways and telling them that we would prefer that they use 19th Avenue as their sole source of ingress and egress. But partly they have not shared that to the drivers. We are in the process of purchasing signs but we'll have to enforce those signs, no through trucks on those two roadways.
Mr. Mayor, I think if we're going to preserve that road, unless we can come through some type of agreement with that cement company, exactly as Mr. Austin is saying, we're going to have to put them signs up, no through trucks, and we're going to have to enforce them because, like I say, I don't know whether you've been over there, but 139 and like I say, for the years I've been here, those streets have never looked like that. Like I said, the business owners are really elated. Job well done.
Awesome. Yeah, let's get them signs up ASAP because I don't want nobody mess up them roads, man. We proud of that as a commission, man. That's a big deal. That's a real big deal. So thank all the staff involved for making that happen.
Will do, sir. Will do.
So does anything else for Mr. Austin?
One more thing, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner Burke.
Mr. Austin, I mentioned to you the other day, Mr. Mayor, remember that drain that we paid $107,000 to be clean back over there in the junkyard area.
Yes, sir.
Now on that drain, I was explaining to Mr. Austin, I don't know who did the road work back there, but that drain is completely covered now.
And
I don't-
Mr. Burke, my apologies for not getting back, Mr. Burke, through the mayor. I apologize for not getting back to you, sir, but that was a deliberate act to cover that drain to prevent a reoccurrence of the illegal dumping into the manhole. So we deliberately had the drain filled in to prevent any dumping of oil or any other contaminants into the system. As the project progresses, we will unearth the drain again, but it's not causing any harm to be covered at this time.
Okay, I was just concerned because of the money that we spent to have that drain cleaned out. I thought
Correct.
it was, okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. All right. I believe the manager wanted to go into budget next. Is that correct,
Robert,
Manager?
are you ready to brief on the budget or where we at with COVID-19 as far as expenditures goes?
Yeah, can you hear me? This is the first time I've been on iPhone at this meeting. I'm not sure if I'm working. Am I coming through?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Happiness is. Yeah, we prepared a memo yesterday. I don't know if it's distributed or not. Through yesterday, expenditures for the COVID-19 response to COVID-19, roughly $135,000. 110 of that is related to police overtime, and 110 includes not only wages, but also the uplift for the employment taxes and FRS. After that, there's about another 7,500 for meals for the police department, about 10,000 for the laptop computers that had to be bought and issued to those essential employees who are working at home. And the remainder was primarily related to various PPE.
Mr. Robert, I can barely hear you.
Okay.
Could you speak a little clearer and
Yeah.
slow down? And I don't know if it's everyone else. Y'all can shake your head if y'all heard or not, but I can barely hear where you started from. Okay.
Okay.
So
Can you hear me now?
restart that and speak a little more clearly into the mic?
Yeah, can you hear me now better? Is that working?
Much better.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, my fault. I'm just learning. Okay, what I said is through yesterday, city had expended about $135,000 on COVID-19 related items. About 110 of that was police overtime, which is about 85,000 of wages, and then uplifts for employment taxes and also retirement benefits. The remaining 20, I'm sorry, make that 131,000 in total. The remaining 21,000 basically was primarily $10,000 for the laptop computers that had to be bought for the essential employees who are going to be working from home. Another 7,500 was related to police meals, and then the remainder had to do with the acquisition of PPE supplies and consumables. So at this point, as I said, through yesterday, it's about $131,000 expended against it.
All right. So am I get this right? You said 7,500 for police meals.
That's correct.
That's what I was saying.
So we have 110,000 in overtime and 7,000. So basically, out of 131,000, 117,000 went to police overtime and meals in the past 2 months. Am I correct on that?
That's a correct statement. Yes, sir.
All right. So this is what I was referring to when I mentioned other needs to enforce, because that is significant. And I don't believe that is even sustainable economically. And correct me if I'm wrong, to have extra expenditure of over $100,000. And we started this, it's just been about, what was it, March 20 something, we started the emergency orders. Is that?
No, we started emergency order in infancy of earlier March.
Madam Clerk, do you have the exact date for that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, the exact date for?
The day the emergency was started in the city of Opa-locka.
No, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can quickly search it up real quick.
All right, please do.
May I cut in on this, Bob, again?
So-
A lot of the police overtime was occurred in the first 2 weeks where they really went active on the program. They staffed up to do what they thought they had to do, recognized that they probably had more people in place than they needed, and the scale of overtime has cut back significantly against that. So the most recent pay period I've seen, it's been another $20,000. So there was a surge, and now it's come back down, and it's going to be a more sustainable level, and also it's going to be submitted to FEMA for reimbursement. So it's not good, but it's not a major problem, I don't believe.
Okay. I would still like to see if we can look into public service aides and others that can complement the police. I know fully fledged police officers are pretty expensive, and maybe public service aides can complement the police department to assist in responding and assisting people, writing citations and doing those things. So I will hope we can at least look into that as an option and get some type of report to us and figuring out the fiscal impact of that, and whether or not that is actual viable option within the city. So that's just because, and I hear you, Bob, to say that it did drop off significantly, but I would definitely like to get more of updates on that on a regular basis, because that is a significant number. I understand that FEMA will also reimburse those things, but I also want to figure out, as I said, one of our priorities, what is the funding availability the city of Opa-locka can put towards this crisis, and what are the priorities to address it, that we can collectively decide upon, that we can put money into. And that's a conversation that we haven't had yet, and I would like to have that very soon. My colleagues, you have any comments on the budget report?
You know, Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burt?
you know, I don't want to be too critical, but I'm like you, that's an awful lot of overtime. And then, that's okay. I'll leave it at that. That's okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Davis?
just to kind of echo your concerns, I actually submitted a request through the manager's office for expenditures, a list of expenditures made on behalf of the COVID-19 emergency declaration with expenditures that we have made to date. I didn't receive it, but I'm glad. Thank you for providing that. Now, Bob, my concern was similar to the mayor's. I kind of wanted to know where we were as far as spending, what things were we prioritizing. I know that we had purchased the PPE equipment, and we hadn't received the order yet. But then, my concern is, like, what are we prioritizing and what are we spending our money on? I heard you speak to a few expenditures, Bob, like related to the police department and fringe benefits and some sort of feeding. Can you speak to where those funds are coming from? Like, is it coming from our emergency reserves? Where's the money coming from to currently fund the majority of our emergency related expenses related to COVID-19?
If I may, right now, the general fund will probably generate a surplus this year. So without debating which specific account it's charged against, it's really being funded from surplus at this point. there is a lot of funding that's become available. For example, $2.5 million that is going to be released to the city from the bank. So that's all contributing to a surplus. I mean, we do have what's lines called emergency reserve lines. And if you want to charge it against something, it'll be charged against that. But at the end of the day, it's being covered by the surplus between the revenue for the year and the other normal expenditures for the year.
Okay. I guess at some point we need, I guess, a more detailed report outlining expenditures and I guess what money is exactly available, to respond to this pandemic on behalf of the city. I know that we all have our recommendations and we, I think we all want to look at the numbers and kind of see where we at so we could collectively make the decision on behalf of the community and prioritize the right things. So if that can happen, I don't know, by the next workshop or because we really need that information in order for us to effectively move forward as a board. So through the mayor and manager, Bob, I don't know if if you're able to provide that, but that would be my recommendation going forward.
If I may respond to that, that work has been done already. So it's just a question of making it available to you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll expect it, I guess, before the next workshop or as soon as you can provide it.
I fully concur with the vice mayor. We need that information ASAP. And not just the amount of money we have available, but also what are the options that we can do to address this and how much those options cost. We can use this time, and I'm going to go through to give it a moment for us to lay out some ideas that staff can do a cost analysis for based upon the commission's priorities. It's important that staff and the commission, residents, business owners, that someone or a group is compiling those ideas about what we need to do to address this issue and doing a fiscal analysis of that, and then providing us with a layout of what those are, what are the recommendations or the most needs, and the cost for that.
Through the mayor.
Mr. Manager.
So to be very blunt with you, those matters have been taken into account. Multiple requests have been made this week, if not early next week, for these numbers. Mr. Robert Anathan has put that numbers together. As soon as he had those numbers together for me to review, and I have enough time to review and digest them, that information will be released to the commission.
We look forward to it.
Mayor Packard?
Commissioner Bass.
Just a quick question. What percentage of the expenditures are refundable back to the city? COVID-19 expenses.
Mr. Anathan, can you answer that question through the mayor?
Through the mayor, it can take a couple first, it has to pass eligibility in terms of all the documentation, assuming that that's met satisfactorily. FEMA normally will reimburse 75%. I'm not aware whether Florida is going to come back with another 12.5 on top of that or not. So I would say for anything where we have all the supporting documentation, we should be eligible for at least 75% and quite possibly 87.5%.
Mayor Packard, if I may, I know we need to do what's necessary to protect and serve our community, but at the same time, we need to be mindful and good stewards over our finances. So I would just have, just a reminder out there, we need to be very careful, even though hopefully we will get back 75%, but not to have an additional 25%. That can be a chunk that the city at this time, in my opinion, is not able to take on. So we have to be strategic in what we do, how we spend the money, and, to make sure that at the end of the day, that we won't be in a minus because of this. Some of the situations are out of our control, but at the same time, We have to be excellent stewards over what we have. We might be looking at a surplus right now, but if we were able to do everything that the city needs to be done, we would be in a minus again. So when we say we have a surplus, yeah, we might have a surplus, but that's because we're not done doing what we need to do in the city. So we still need to be careful. With all that being said, thank you so much for your hard work. Thank you, Mayor Paget.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Bass. Who is doing the documentation for FEMA reimbursement and ensuring that we are taking advantage of all the resources from the state, county, and federal level, and that we are also complying with the terms of that reimbursement or funding?
That'll be our budget administrator, Robert Anathan is taking care of that, along with the assistance of Mr. Ariel Austin.
Okay. I want to make sure. I know that in the past, the city of Opa-locka had to get a outside consultant to assist with preparing that information. And I know that we had people in that actually is no longer working with us right now. And also that we submitted information and it was rejected due to some reasons of not providing a backup documentation. I want to make sure that that does not happen with this funding. Yeah, I want to make sure that that does not happen. So as long as we are clear on doing that and taking advantage, because for most cities, it's a full-time job to go through and search for fundings and comply and all that. So it's important, and I want to make sure we are doing that within the city and abiding by exactly what Commissioner Bassett said. Like, we got to be accurate of what these numbers, because if we running this this money and we only get 75, and sometimes if we don't even get more than that, that's going to hit us hard. And we are in a financial crisis. That's very clear. All right. Anything else for budget? All right, Mr. Manager, do you have anything else?
I would just like to let everybody know, as we have been monitoring our COVID-19 results, the numbers not going lower. It is extremely going into a high state. We've jumped up multiple cases over the past week. I know the report that was released today, and I have to review it on my phone right now just to make sure I'm 100% certain on it, or maybe Robert can give it to me. Robert, what's the numbers for today?
This is Bob again. For whatever reason, the state did not update their numbers through 2:30. And to be very honest, I got so swept up in other activity that I didn't pick it up at the tail end of the day. So we will update it. It will go out tonight, but for whatever, it's normally updated around 11 o'clock in the morning. And for whatever reason, by 2:30, it was still showing yesterday's numbers. I can give you yesterday's numbers if that's.
Yeah, if you give me yesterday's numbers, sir.
Bear with me 1 second while I pull it up, and we will do it. Give me 2 minutes to pull it up, and then I'll indicate I've got it.
Mayor Paget,
Commissioner Bass?
if I may, I believe it's 2:38.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mhm.
I greatly appreciate your assistance. You're reading your report, which is a wonderful thing. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, sir.
So we're at a 238 at this point, probably be higher after reporting is completed throughout the night, and we're able to give you an updated report today. So we're at a number of 238. As far as enforcement is concerned, gas stations were shut down. No medical-based related calls in regards to COVID-19 have came in. But we are working on closing our businesses down that are not complying to the mask protocol as delineated and as ordered by me and as ratified by the commission on last week. So we are taking great strides to do that. Additional information has been put out to the code enforcement department. That is their sole responsibility to make sure that they maintain these business checks throughout the city. Not only just the police department, need code enforcement out there as a force multiplier to handle those things as well. And I will have those results at the next reporting date tomorrow.
All right. I want to move on to commission's priorities in regards to COVID-19 to make sure that staff is available. And it's two things I want us to figure out. Number one, we want to go through priorities. Also have heard a lot about putting a mask and mask law, and I would love for us to discuss that too. So really quickly, are there any priorities that or anything that the commission wants to make sure that we discuss at the moment during this meeting?
Mayor Praggett?
Commissioner Bass?
Not so much a discussion, just to verbally show my support again for the face coverings, even though we might have to change verbiage. I'm not quite sure. I did read it, but I don't remember exactly verbatim what it says, but I'm in support of whatever is necessary for us to do to ensure that our community is safe and following the rules, the guidelines, because at the end of the day, lives are at stake. And if we're not careful as a community, we would lose our residents, and we don't want that. 238 cases now, death in the city of Opa-locka, I'm not sure of, but one is too many. So whatever it takes that we need to do, we need to just do it, but still be good stewards over what we have to work with. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? So, Vice Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, just to piggyback off Commissioner Bass' comments about the numbers, we know that 33054, represents a larger area that expands beyond our community. Have we in any way, attempted to isolate the data where we are only looking at, cases that actually would fall within, our city boundaries as opposed to the larger 33054 zip code? Through the mayor to the manager.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you. That question I will actually defer to our budget administrator, Mr. Anathan. Mr. Anathan, how have you worked to kind of segregate that data for make it true Opa-lockians that we're counting for COVID exposure?
Yeah, that has been a very interesting issue. Building on the vice mayor's comment, the zip code is in fact bigger, as you pointed out, does pick up portions of bordering communities. And yet the zip code number, which allegedly covers the bigger area, is at 147, while as elsewhere on the report where it says Opa-locka alone is 238. So what the numbers are just opposite from what you expect, and I haven't been able to sort that out.
But there is a way to separate out pure Opa-lockians from everybody else, correct?
I have not been able to find it because the report that reports Opa-locka, in fact, is a bigger number than it is reported for the zip code number.
Okay.
So if I take it at face value, I have Opa-locka, but then it does make sense to with the zip code number.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize for that, but that's the state of play with these numbers right now.
And to your point, Vice Mayor, I had the same concerns, and I've been yelling that at the county and the state because it just don't make sense at all. Yeah, it don't make sense. But we got to help the manager because it's Opa-lockians. He keeps saying, I don't think anybody from Opa-locka ever said Opa-lockians refer to Opa-locka. I think that's that Chicago talk right there. We're going to have to update you on the lingo, Mr. Manager. We got you. All right. So let's jump into this mask law. As we've been seeing across the country, people have been having issues with wearing masks. And when it comes to the spread of COVID-19 and slowing down the spread of COVID-19, one of the key tools to actually slow down the spread are masks. And that's the only thing that the county, the state, all the Florida health folk are saying: stay away from people and wear masks when out. And that's why across the country, and here in the state of Florida and the county, we require that people who are entering businesses wear masks. But there have been a few cities that have gone a step further and have required all people when out and about to wear masks. And in some cases, there's been pushback. In other cases, it is working. I did some research and looked at cities from across the nation. Birmingham, Alabama is probably the one that looks like it had the best mask law on the books. And I put together and asked with the manager, the attorney, clerk's office, our legislative aide, to do research to put together an ordinance that will fit Opa-locka. And I asked the clerk to share that with the commission so that we can tweak it and find out whether or not we want to put it in for the city, and what are some considerations. Since the time that I sent it out and asked them to spread it, I know the city of Birmingham has actually edited theirs to open up the conditions of exceptions, like for people working on ladders, people who cannot physically put a mask on themselves, and other things like that. And I'm pretty sure that after this conversation, if we do move to bring this up at our upcoming commission meeting, that I will ask that those considerations that they made are also in the law. But I just wanted to get from my colleagues your thoughts on doing a mask law within the city of Opa-locka that would require all people to wear masks. So that gives the people who are hanging out on the corners, hanging out in the parks, that they have to wear masks. If we're gonna congregate, they got to wear masks. And it gives our law enforcement the ability to say that, and also to offer a mask to them. One of the significant differences that I made sure is that nobody will be locked up for the mask law, but the consideration about how they will be penalized through a citation, that still hasn't been thought through. And I haven't seen that report from management about how that will be thought through from us. So it's on the floor right now. If you want, I can have the clerk to share the document so that we all can see. But I just like to give my colleagues thoughts on whether or not it's something we want to do.
Mayor Praggett,
Commissioner Bass?
I am in total favor of the face covering law in the city of Opa-locka. It only makes common sense to do so, to err more of caution in that way. And, it's better not having anything at all. So I think we just need to try our very, very best. And at this point, the only thing we have that's working for us is the social distances and the face coverings. So if it takes face coverings to be a part of our laws for our city, then we need to go for it, because we need to do the best we know how. Because at the end of the day, when this is over and done with, we don't need our residents to say we let them down. We need to do this, as if they are our children, as if they are our moms and our dads, protect them as much as we know how. And sometimes, when you go to the point where you do what you need to do, everybody's not happy. Somebody's going to push back, but we have to look at the greater picture, why we're doing what we're doing, and expect pushback, but saves lives. We're going to be saving lives by making this happen. Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, could you zoom out a little bit and go down to where it defines the actual, what face coverings are, masks are? And I think Vice Mayor, you wanted to say a few words?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm in total agreement of the law as well. I think we also, we need to enforce it and, um, ensure that our residents are following the law and adhering to CDC guidelines, whatever recommendations are coming down to deal with this pandemic. Um, I must admit, I'm not certain of I guess, the penalties associated with such a law. Um, I may have a concern there as it relates to, like the enforcement on the penalties. So I'm not sure what those definitions are yet. Um, I'm also aware that it could potentially have a fiscal impact, which, is more enforcement. So, we just talked about our police department and how we've already expended, pretty much hundreds of thousands of dollars, to kind of cover overtime and whatever shortfalls the police department may have. So my concern would be in passing this, the financial implications, um, on the city. But other than that, I'm in total agreement with the intent of the law, which is, to ensure that our residents are abiding by the CDC guidelines, and ensuring that we're all, doing our due diligence to keep each other safe.
Madam Clerk, could you go down to where the penalties are? And could the manager speak to how we would apply penalties? It's further down. I
Yes,
think
you
it's section, yeah, right there, number 5.
Mhm.
So yeah, right now, penalties, we got 250 for a civil fine, but what's that process looks like? And that's what I've asked management to help us figure out, like, how do we enforce that? So Mr. Manager, could you give us more insight?
So what this will cause is a complete change of our code. So this wouldn't apply under any of the emergency orders that we have. This would be considered a law that's within our code. So we would have to place this law in this code under that specific specification. It would require changing certain chapters of our code in order to cooperate it. And please understand that this would not be a temporary law, but it would be a permanent law on our books.
So I think that the question was about the actual penalty. We understand what resolutions and ordinances are. And we know that ordinances are laws, but that's what we need to put in place in order to put in a law that our officers can enforce. So we were aware of that part. My question that we're asking and the Vice Mayor is asking is, number one, the penalties, but then yes, we're going to go into the actual costs. And that goes back to the conversation that we were talking about, is that what does this look like? We're going into a new normal. And we're going to have to restructure our budget to adapt to this new normal. And I think what we as a commission want to know is, what does that look like? Because we know we're not going to have people out in the parks all the time. So we know that's going to be modified in some way. We know we're going to have to put more funding into enforcement. So what does that look like? So that's the second part of the conversation. But right now we want to know about the penalty. Like,
so what does this look like as far as penalties? More man hours in police and code enforcement and enforcing this law to making sure that it is adhered to, and ensuring that each $250 law that's collected is actually collected into our coffers. This law, since it be a city law, that's all 100% of this $250 will go into the city's coffers, unless you guys want to have a higher penalty.
Or what?
So, all right. And I know I asked these questions before. It's the process. This is what I think and Vice Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong. We want to know that if an officer goes out and somebody is not complying, what are the steps of that interaction with that person? And then and for example, if they get this citation, is it written up on a citation? Is it handed to them? They say they're not going to take it. Does it still be put in effect? If how are they going to pay? And if they don't pay, what will happen? Those are the details that I think we're trying to get to. And Vice Mayor,
So
add on
it will be written up as a local citation.
Wait, Mr. City Manager. Vice Mayor, I want to make sure I got the thought right. I can't hear you.
Sorry, yes, Mr. Mayor, you're correct.
Oh, yeah, you on? Okay, cool. All right, go ahead, Mr. Manager.
So it will be written up as a local citation for $250. That 100% of those proceeds will go to the city for violating this specific order. And what I would suggest is it'd be a tirated system. So if your first time offender is 250, if your second time offender is 250, if your third time offender is 200. Since this is all going into our coffers directly. So this is how it has to be looked about and enforced about if it's going to be placed into our code.
Vice Mayor, you have any other questions? I'm kind of.
Not so much. Oh, yeah.
No, you got it. Go ahead. You got the floor. I'll go to
Okay.
Mr. Bass next.
Yes, I actually do have a few questions along the side of, I guess, of the permanency of the law. And that was my concern because, again, like you said, Mr. Mayor, we don't know like what a new normal would look like. So from my perspective, I'll be reluctant to kind of jump into enforcement when we don't know, really what that's going to be. I think we all are kind of under the impression that, this thing is going to be around for a while, and, wearing face covers or masks or however we want to, name it, might be the new normal. But from my perspective, I think it might be a little early to call. I know you threw some precedent out about like what other cities are doing. I haven't really seen anything locally to the effect. I've been kind of looking and watching as well. So I mean, like I said, it sounds good. My only reservation would be the long-term commitment. Like like the manager said, it will be a part of our code and ordinance. So with laws comes enforcement, which is tied to budgetary, which has budgetary implications. So if we're going to create a law, we need to be sure that it's that it's something that that going forward, it makes sense and it's the best fit for our community.
And we typically do not put expiration dates on ordinances.
I'm sorry, Mr.
We
Manager?
typically do not put expiration dates on ordinances.
Right. So we could always, I guess, amend it, or once when the time period is over, Mr. Manager, it could be amended or retracted in some way, I guess.
Of course, the city commission always has the right to do that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, hold on. Let me get Commissioner Bass. But to your point, Vice Mayor, what I was hoping to do is to make sure that the language of the ordinance will only apply to when the city is faced with a pandemic that is spread through human respiratory contact, that this law will be in place. So it won't be the fact that if this is over, that the law doesn't apply. So there's plenty of laws we have on the books that don't come into effect until an issue comes up. So that's the intent behind this, is to make it where it applies to the specific circumstances of a worldwide pandemic that is based upon human transmission. Commissioner Bass and then Commissioner Burke.
Mayor Paget, my sentiments exactly, your last few statements, totally agree. But to the manager, I'm gonna ask the same question that Mayor Paget asked on behalf of our vice mayor. What are the consequences if that $250 is not paid?
The $250 be placed in collection, and that $250 fine probably be doubled to $500.
So you're saying, in other words, if it's not paid, it would just accumulate additional funds?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Running fine.
Mr. Mayor,
Hold on, you said it will, hold on, I missed that, I apologize. Say that one more time, Mr. Manager.
If a $250 fine is not paid, it most likely will be doubled to $500, which will probably be the would be the last level of fine, and then it will be sent out to collections.
So they will owe that money to the city of Opa-locka. Will that prevent them from any services? Will that prevent them from getting a driver's license? Will that prevent them for anything?
Yes.
What will it prevent?
It probably prevent them from getting a driver's license or anything on the benefit of the city of Opa-locka.
If we can get that in writing so that we're very clear, that
No
would
problem.
be
I can have the attorney put that in writing when we enacting this ordinance.
okay, before we enact the ordinance. Like, we want to be clear about the steps, the penalties, the consequences, because that's what we're going to get questions about. Like, it's what everybody going to talk about. And if they believe that, oh, it's $250, but shoot, I ain't got to pay it, it's not going to affect me in any way, shape, or form, then ain't nobody going to pay attention to it.
That's right. That's why you have to stop their license and do other things to make sure.
Manager, wait,
further
till I'm finished,
action.
sir. Mr. Manager, wait till I'm finished. We want to make sure that it's clear, very clear, because this is going to be the major pushback that we get as a commission. All right, go ahead. And then Commissioner Burke.
Now, understandably, what you're saying, Mayor, what's going to happen is if somebody fails to make a payment, there is going to be a penalty applied, and that will define either additional penalty or a failure for that person to do further business with the city.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Burke.
Mr. Mayor, this is all well and good, but you want to be real careful. If you look at it, you ride through your streets where your homeowners are, you see most of your homeowners who can afford a $250 fine is wearing masks. You get somebody, and then where are you gonna get your pushback from is from the people who cannot afford how many people over in the Blues can afford a $250 fine for a mask? How many people over in 22nd Avenue can afford a $250? And so what are you gonna do? If they don't pay the fine, what are you gonna do? Turn their water off? Or I don't know how you're gonna be able to attach your driver's license to a city ordinance. But my main thing is, I'm just saying, this is all well, I'm behind everybody needing to wear a mask, but you gotta look at the penalty. Because like I say, you drive through your homeowners, everybody's adhering to wearing a mask. I would say you're responsible parties. Even some of the people in the blues, even some of the people on 22nd Avenue. But how many of them people, and that's where you're gonna have your problems at, living in them places can come up with $250 for not wearing a mask. I'm just throwing that out there. That's just something to think about.
You hit it right on the head, Commissioner Burke, and that's my challenge, and that's why I've been asking staff and management, like, what is that? Like, we need to figure that out. Like, what is it? And we need to know that before we even move on this item. So, what is that process? What does it look like on a step-by-step level so that we're clear? Like, we're very, very, very clear. So, that's why I saw Commissioner Bass. You had something?
Yes, Mayor Paget, thank you so much. I think a little bit differently, respectfully. If I know that I cannot afford something, I'm not gonna do that thing that's gonna cost me to have to afford it. So if we look at it in that route where the respect for our laws and regulations or rules for Opa-locka, if this is the way that we have to do it in order to ensure that it's followed, then that's what we have to do. Because if we continue thinking that because our residents may or may not be able to afford it, we can't do it, nothing's going to get done. We're going to be status quo for generations to come. We need to put something in place. Okay, you can't afford it, you won't do it. Why would you go leave your house knowing that your face is supposed to be covered and you cannot pay your $250? One that make you put on your mask or cover your face and leave your house? That's the way I look at it. If we put the $250 in place, some will comply and some won't. But I guarantee you they'll think twice.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, you finished, Commissioner Bass?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Burke?
I find those sentiments coming really hard coming from a woman of Christ.
Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Burke. Wait, let's not go personal, please.
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Don't, please, Commissioner Burke, please.
No, I'm saying.
Address her general response.
Okay, I'm saying, we know, okay, we know what we're dealing with in the city of Opa-locka, okay? And it is not just that, Mr. Mayor. If you had a police department that's gonna enforce it. If you had a police department that's gonna enforce it. I'm just saying, we know this is not one of the richest cities in Miami-Dade County, okay? But we need to get the message to them. So we're gonna come here and we're gonna say, okay, you can't feed your kids, but we're gonna fine you $250 for not having a mask on. You know you need a mask on. You're gonna get pushed back, okay? I'm just saying, if we can get our message across, and we had strong enforcement. That's all I'm saying. If we do the law and we had strong enforcement, I mean, come on, where's somebody living in a single mother, living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 kids, gonna get $250 from to pay a fine for not having a mask? I understand, Commissioner. I understand. We have to do something. We have to do something. I understand that. But I'm just saying, let's be realistic. And I don't think telling them that we're gonna charge them $250. I mean, if you want to scare them, but then if they don't pay the $250, what are you gonna do? You're gonna turn their water off? You're gonna turn their lights off? What are you gonna do? And I'm just saying, you know, I'm sure the 4 of us sitting here, I'm sure we can do something better for our citizens than trying to take money or take food out of their kids. Because I'm saying your responsible people don't have a problem with this.
Yes.
Your responsible people don't have a problem with this. We're doing this.
Oh,
We all
fine.
leave out our house with a mask on. We know we can't go to the store.
Okay.
But you get one or two of them
All right.
from the
bye-bye.
blues who want to run a quick stop. They ain't thinking about no two. They ain't got no $250, so they're not thinking about it. I mean, if we can get the message across to them and really get on the business owners, don't nobody get service if you come into any business in the city without a mask on. Don't nobody get service. I was in Family Dollar last week. I spoke with the manager. There was a lady in there without a mask. And this was right after we had the meeting, Mr. Mayor, and we were talking about doing the mask law. And all I did was I spoke to him. He politely told the lady she had to leave the store, but she was already in there. So I'm saying, if we can mandate it to the stores, that nobody is to come into your store without a mask on. So what we're gonna do, if people just walking down the street, once you leave your house, then everybody have a mask on, even people walking down the street. You know how many times that's gonna tie up the police? Because you still got your crackheads running around here. Where they gonna get $250 from? I'm just saying, let's be realistic. The responsible people in the city, we're already doing this. We're already taking this up. I'm just saying we have to look out also. We're also the commissioners for the citizens in the city that's not so responsible. So we have to look out for them too. Thank you.
Mayor Pagan, if I may.
Wait, one moment. Commissioner Burke.
Yes, sir.
What do you, because we already have a law in place to where if they're entering a business, they must wear a mask. Like that law is already in play. What would you suggest as a penalty outside of 250? Because literally that was when we first did the research on this, it was $500, what other people are doing. And I think even with the county, when penalties for, like, if you violate social distancing, the mask in the parks, they're talking about a $500 fine plus jail.
Okay.
And I took that out, the jail part, and lowered it because I didn't think that we would have, because 500 is way too much. So I lowered it to 250. So what would you see as a deal? Because I'm open to whatever penalty. That was just something candid. What penalty do you think would fit for the city?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, if I may, let's take a look at that that ordinance that we had for the saggy pants. That was an ordinance. I think the police officers were able to give out citations, and if they didn't pay the citation or they couldn't pay the citation, they had to come to the park to do community service within the city. You say 100 or 250. If the time came and they couldn't pay the 250, then they come and work in the city, in the parks, public works, or someplace to work off the 250. We might want to look at that ordinance. I think that ordinance was somewhere in that guideline where the police officers could write a citation because your pants were sagging. And then if you didn't pay it in a certain time, I don't know how they went about it, but I know if they couldn't pay the fine, several of them had to come over to the parks and pick up paper, and that's, I'm just saying we can look at that ordinance and see how they did. Excuse me, see how they did that ordinance.
Madam Clerk or the Chief, could y'all come up with that information on this call right now while Commissioner Bass make her comments? I would like to hear the enforcement criteria, penalties associated with the ordinance that Commissioner Burke so that we all can see what that is and maybe even amend this to include that. If you need to stop the sharing your screen, feel free, Madam Flores. All right, Commissioner Bass.
I just want to say that it saddens me that the expectations that we have on our residents are so low that the view that we have of our residents is below dignity. We have residents in Opa-locka that are smart, that are intelligent, and knows right from wrong. So anytime we're making these decisions and we go to the low end as if our residents are ignorant, that saddens me. Our residents are not ignorant. Some of them choose not to do what's necessary. So the expectation that we're setting so low for our residents bothers me. We need to look at our residents as higher standard of living people and stop always pointing out the negative and what our residents are going through. We already know that we have a struggling community, but it doesn't help us any to make the expectations lower than they already are. It's just like the children at school. If we don't give them high expectations, they don't rise to it. We need to look at our residents in a different manner. Yes, we need to recognize where their lacks and needs are. Yes, of course. But let us stop looking at them as if they are the least and they don't understand. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, Vice Mayor.
If I may chime in, I actually see both sides of the issue. You know, in no way do we want to create a financial burden on our, on our residents in the pandemic. Hence why we, put a moratorium on utility cutoffs and suspended red light camera and, any other burden that could potentially, play a role in that. So I hear Commissioner Burke's, point about the fine and how it could hinder, our residents. But I also hear Commissioner Bass' concern as well, as far as, implementing the penalty, because we did see with the red light camera program that, and Chief Dobson could attest to this, that, the cases of red light cameras, the issues of the incidents actually went down amongst our residents, hence why we brought it back. Or one of the reasons why I voted to bring it back, at least, because, it really wasn't affecting our residents as much as people, traveling through our communities. So we've seen locally where, where we've set limits, to certain fines, and it actually, deterred certain behavior. So, I see both sides of it. I really can't lean either way. What I would say is, I hope we could find, we could meet somewhere in the middle on this. Like I said, I don't think the penalties, should be that high because we are in a state of emergency. So we don't want to put that kind of burden on our residents. So I'm really not, I hear both concerns. I'm somewhere in the middle on the issue. I hope that we could, find some common ground and, maybe look at the, Commissioner Burke brought up a valid point about volunteering and, I don't know if that necessarily would translate to deterring our residents, from actually doing the crime. Hence why, maybe the mayor and others are in favor of financial, citation type of approach. So, I mean, so I'll just leave it there. I'm still up in the air about it. I don't want to take too much time.
All right, Chief or Madam Clerk, could y'all give us an idea about the penalties for the pants sagging ordinance and what that process looks like?
Mr. Mayor, you have to give me a couple of minutes to search Laserfish for the ordinance. My computer is working a little bit slow, so I'm trying to locate it now.
Okay, Chief, from your recollection, what's been the process of enforcing the pants sagging?
Mr. Mayor, based on the recollection, I think the fine was, if I can recall, I think it was $100. And if it wasn't paid, it was definitely community service. And it was only, the sagging pants was only around government buildings and library and things like that. So since I've been here, and I've been here now since 14, I can only recall maybe a few times where that is actually been enforced. but it has been, but I would say probably community service. I don't recall any, since I've been here since 14, anyone having to pay a civil fine or anything for the saggy pants ordinance.
Okay. All right. So just moving forward, unless the Madam Clerk sign and let me know. But I know for the passage of this, I would like a very clear report from management about number one, what that penalty looked like. And let's pull from what the ordinance is from start with again a written ticket to if they don't pay, what that looks like and all those considerations in there. Two, a fiscal impact. I know that something like that will require enforcement. And I'll hope that this mask law is a part of all the things that we're doing as a city to address the pandemic now and set ourselves up for this new normal. And you want to know what that looks like in terms of restructuring our budget and the funding that will be a part of that. And then third, I think I forgot it was Commissioner Bass or Commissioner Burke brought up, letting our residents know, like what is the message to educate them, let them know. I believe Commissioner Kelly brought up putting up signs in the city. And I know as a chief said that sign law for the pants sagging hasn't really been enforced. Maybe we can replace those same signs because they're actually strategically located, but put new signs up on those same places that says mask law there. So what does that look like in terms of costs, in terms of messaging, all that? Those are things that I know I personally would like to know before passing this and putting it in place. So any final thoughts we move on from this mask law?
Mr. Mayor?
You got it, Commissioner Burke.
Well, for one, I would like to say, I have been in Opa-locka for over 20 years, and I would never speak to belittle my Opa-lockians. As a mayor, as a manager would say it, I would never speak to belittle any Opa-lockian. Any Opa-lockian, okay? But I also know that most of our residents here are struggling. It's nothing to low rate or downplay any resident in this city on my behalf. Like I say, I'm in the city, I'm out and about, and I see the struggle in this city. I see the struggle in this city, and I would never low rate any human being, not just Opa-locka, not just somebody from Opa-locka. I speak highly about residents of Opa-locka, but we have to be realistic. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, were you able to find anything yet? No? All right. So no other final thoughts with the mask law. In terms of priorities, I do want to make sure that we are moving on some of the priorities that laid out early on during this pandemic in the establishment of a call center, the development of an online engagement strategy for our children, and virtual healthy living type practices, wellness calls to our seniors. Those things I would definitely like to see updates on, and make sure that we as a commission are provided that. So Mr. Manager, could you provide updates on those items? And also, when will we get that fiscal picture of this new normal and the funding that we're going to be able to apply to it.
Yes, sir. Those items you're requesting are forthcoming. They're either in budget review or there were staff that being worked up currently.
Do you have a timeline? It's been a few weeks now.
As I've told you, Mayor, and I've explained to you, we have moved on each one of your steps. For example, we have messaging for all our community. We have daily reports going out in regards to COVID-19 and what is affecting our city. We do currently have a current senior program that's in reaching out to our seniors and people that need food on a daily basis. The only thing that we have not done is your daily call center, which we're currently trying to work out on, and a couple other items. But we have been working on your priorities one day at a time, sir.
Okay. I don't want to make this my priorities. These are things that I know that many people have talked about and wanted, and it just laid it out. And I'm asking about it. But I think that in every one of these meetings and moving forward, our residents would like to know what are the services that we're providing as a city and what's the status of us getting those in place and also the cost for it. So
and a big example, Mr. Mayor, that we have is we do have a website.
Mr. Manager, please do not interrupt when someone is
okay,
speaking.
well, I'll be quiet then, sir.
All right. Please. I lost my train of thought. No, go ahead, sir. All right, so I don't have anything to say. All right, Madam Clerk, could you explain what we see before us today? Oh, we can't hear you, Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry, I forgot to unmute. But this is ordinance number 13-34. It was adopted on 10/23/2013, and it deals with the penalties for violation of the saggy pants ordinance. So it's actually 2 pages, I believe. So I'm not sure if you just want to review these penalties.
Okay. All right. Could you just forward that to the commission so that we can look through it?
Yes.
Most likely, I won't want to amend the ordinance to include this. And then in the meantime, for the rest of the commission, let's think through any other penalties or how this has been applied. I already see the special master and all that. Those are the type of things we're looking for in the step by step. So if we can amend the ordinance that we have on the table. Do I have any co-sponsors or people that want to sponsor this item for the next commission meeting?
I'll
The commission?
sponsor with you. I'll sponsor with you.
All right, Commissioner Bass. Okay. All right. So,
Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Davis. All right. With that, please send those edits to Ms. Flores. I think the agenda packet needs to be out by what time? We would need those edits by what time, Madam Flores?
As soon as possible. I'll be working on the agenda tomorrow morning when I go in the office. So the sooner the better.
Okay. All right. So we can review the legislation, review this item, add those together, take our time over the next few days before the commission meeting, and let's come back to the commission tearing up that ordinance, making whatever amendments that we need to make so that we're all comfortable with it, and move forward from there. And look forward to seeing the report from management about those things. Any other questions or concerns before we close out this workshop. All right. So with that said, I want to thank everyone for being here. As you know, we are dealing with 3 crises here in the city of Opa-locka, and it takes time, and it's a lot of stress on each and every one of us to move forward in doing this. So I want to thank all those involved in putting in the extra time and hours to do this. This is new to everybody, and we're trying to figure this out together. So thank you for your patience. Please continue to brainstorm these ideas, bring it to the management so that as a city, we are responding to the needs of our residents. It's really on all of us on this call to really make sure that our people are good. So let's make sure we do what we need to do. So with that said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
All right, moved by Commissioner Burt,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Davis. This meeting is adjourned. We'll have a good evening.